The University of Ottawa's International Development Week is a student-run initiative and is themed Global Citizenship, a framework for development. We have over 30 events organized to engage the campus community in becoming conscious of global issues, their impact, and how individuals can get involved. Nous sommes fiers de pouvoir offrir plus de 30 activités afin de stimuler et sensibiliser les étudiants face aux enjeux globaux, leurs impacts dans le monde et les façons que les individus peuvent s'y impliquer.
And I'm delighted to be able to participate as part of International Development Week, where the theme really is to create a national movement of students and young people who will be engaged in an exercise in global citizenship.
And I'm particularly glad to be here during International Development Week because I have an increasing sense of young people coming together wanting to influence the currents in this world and see if we cannot somehow create a more decent and civilized and caring international community.
And I know of no other case or cause that is more compelling on the world stage today, that not only invites but commands our involvement, than the question of combating the genocide in Darfur.
And I want to remind you that this has now been going on for more than 4 years, and everyone has characterized it as a genocide. And 250,000 people have lost their lives, overwhelmingly women and children, and a couple of million people displaced. And we're dealing with levels of incidental atrocity that take the breath away.
The victims would tell us how it was usually early in the morning, quite often on a Friday. Fridays being their holy day, so they'd be gathered in a big group, or early in the morning, everybody's still in their homes, when the government planes or helicopters would start flying over and bombs would start dropping. And then a few minutes later, the planes would leave and the government vehicles would come in with guns mounted on the back, and anyone who had survived the bombings, the guns would just start spraying bullets all over the place, hitting anyone running. And people would think everything was over when the vehicles had left. They'd start, going back to help one another or help who's ever left, clean up bodies. Then the Jains would come in and do their final sweep. They sometimes had guns. They would have burning torches to light the homes on fire, and knives, machetes, whatever type of weapon they had. They would then kill any men they could get a hold of, targeting specifically anyone who they knew was a professional, a teacher or a doctor or anything. Women and children, women and girls, no matter what age, if they got a hold of them, they would conduct gang rapes on them, sometimes kidnap them and rape them over a period of a few days, multiple men. And young boys, they would usually kidnap or kill, or kidnap them and make them into child soldiers, or just have them be slaves and look after the livestock that they were going to steal while they were there. So the only thing that would really vary is how many men raped them, how many family members were killed, how many children were killed, and how much livestock or property they had lost. These were the crimes that we were to investigate, which pretty much cover anything that could happen to anyone.
And it isn't as though we can't subdue it. It isn't as though we can't bring it to an end, for God's sake. These aren't the Taliban we're dealing with in Sudan. We're dealing with Janjaweed militia commanders on horseback. It is possible to find an answer were the world to come to its senses and insist on applying an intervention.
This is a test of Canada as a global citizen, as a country international, and it is a test of us, of our citizenship, as part of a movement of global citizenship. We will be judged by where we stood and how we acted with respect to this struggle against the genocide in Darfur.
There's a role to be played here. There's pressure to be applied. There's a recognition that these situations are intolerable. You can't have this kind of human devastation go on year after year after year. And the world stands by with this extraordinary passive inertia.
And so the question then becomes, what is it that we can do What can the international community do? What must it do? And what can Canada do as part of that international community?